Sydney, Australia's military has long grappled with massive waste and overspending as well as projects running years late or never being completed at all. Now, a former brigadier in the Australian Defence Force who became a Liberal MP 3 years ago, Ms. Linda Reynolds, is pushing a novel solution. Ms. Reynolds wants Australia to adopt a bipartisan approach to defence, in which the major parties would agree on long-term spending as well as hardware and weapons acquisitions. This could include, for instance, reaching bipartisan agreement on such projects as Australia's $89 billion, $91.4 billion, naval build-up, which includes buying and building 12 submarines, 9 frigates and 12 offshore patrol vessels. Such agreements would no longer be subject to Australia's 3-yearly federal election cycle. Not a single defence strategic guidance or capability plan has ever come close to being fully funded and implemented, Ms. Reynolds said in a speech in October. How we can obtain long-term bipartisan policy stability and create the political conditions for long-term delivery and to harness innovation. As chair of the Parliamentary Defence Subcommittee, Ms. Reynolds launched an inquiry earlier this year to examine whether Australia's opposing political sides, the Liberal National Coalition and the Labour Party, could, or should, develop a bipartisan approach towards defence planning and capabilities. The inquiry members have been touring the country, visiting military bases and taking submissions from experts. They also plan to examine approaches adopted internationally, including in Denmark, where political parties have a consensual approach to national security. But defense experts have been largely skeptical of whether a bipartisan approach would mark the long-awaited breakthrough, sought by countries around the world, to establish greater transparency, accountability and consistency in defense planning. An expert on defense and security policy, Dr. Daniel Baldino, from the University of Notre Dame, said there were no magic bullets for fixing waste and inefficiency. Instead, encouraging political debate was likely to promote, rather than hinder, better long-term outcomes. He said defense planners should focus on avoiding high-risk purchases and should ensure spending was governed by a long-term plan. In the past, defense procurement has been a horror show, he told the Straits Times. The world is an increasingly complex place. Parliament and parliamentary debate is where you should be doing risk assessment and being proactive and identifying problems. Australia's defence budget for this year was $34.6 billion, up almost 50% in the past 5 years as the federal government aims to lift defence expenditure to 2% of gross domestic product. But defence planners have often been criticised for lengthy delays, budget blowouts and inefficiencies. One of the most famous examples is the Collins-class submarines, which has had repeated delays and technical problems and are believed to be the world's most expensive submarines to maintain. Other projects have been abandoned after the government decided they were taking too long or costing too much, such as an order to acquire 6 landing craft which was approved in 1997 and eventually shelved in 2011 at a cost of $40 million.